So I talked about how to utilize property a little bit as a homestead when you're looking at property here in Chile. And so right now I have about 3 families here in Chile from our ChileExpatFamily Chat group who are looking at real estate. I'm working with one of those families this coming week for about 3 days looking at properties, individual properties. And it's very intensive because you might be driving 8 or 10 hours a day to go look at only 3 or 4 properties because they're so far apart. And we're looking at properties in the campo. And the campo means the countryside. So part of that is I go there and I help them evaluate the property in relation to it. Can I use this property to raise food for my family, or do a homestead is what you guys call in the U.S. It's not prepping here in Chile because there's nothing to prep for in Chile. What y'all call prepping up in North America and Canada, the United States, we just call living here. So we're always putting aside a little bit extra down the basement in the root cellar, like potatoes and flour and salt and sugar, and Lori's always canning up things to go in the basement. But the other side too is we're always eating the oldest stuff off the shelf down there as far as canning goes, so that we have a rotation, okay, of that, and we don't waste anything as best we can. So let's look at my property and the pluses and minuses that I've seen here in relation to using this property. When Lori and I bought this property, and Lori's actually the owner of the property I bought it for and gave it to her. It's in her name. When we bought this property in 2015, we'd been here about 1.5 years, and already existing here was the cabana, which is that brown-sided house. And back then it was nothing but a shack. It was metal-sided, the same metal that's on the roof, type of metal, and it had OSB floor, and the windows were gone, smashed out, and the doors were all stolen. There's no electricity, there's no heat, no water, no plumbing, no nothing. There never had been. It was just basically it was just a storage building. Okay, but it was built very soundly by some of our Mennonite friends. So the bones are really good. And I actually had a debate. Should I burn it down? Because I didn't want to tear it down. But I needed a place to live really fast. So it gave me that opportunity. Somebody say, well, why didn't you move it? Well, that almost created and I've moved buildings bigger than that. I've moved a 3,200 square foot house in the U.S., okay, with a moving company, but I was part of that. And I didn't have a trailer, I didn't have the supplies, and I have a tractor to be able to do that. So that created issues. So for us, we needed a place to stay immediately. I only had so much grass, and I only had so much trees. I didn't really want to get rid of my trees because they're hard to replace. They're not like carrots. I can't harvest them next week. I knew that the cabana couldn't be moved. All right, well, I'm just going to have to deal with that, figure out where I want my house in relation to that. And we ended up putting the barn here, which actually turned out pretty good for us. The sun comes like this, and it actually heats the house in the morning, and then in the afternoon it heats it too. So we get some really good sun on the house, which really helps things. I might rotate a little bit, but I was constrained by the property line there, and I couldn't do that without wasting a lot of property. So anyways, when I look at a piece of property, this is the things I think about with the people that I work with, okay? And I advise them on how do you approach this beautiful piece of property that's located wherever. How do you treat that? What do you do with that? Is that worth what you want to do with it? That's a really good question, okay? Is it an insurmountable cost to fix the things that are bad with it? Those are the questions you need to ask. The soil. I don't have what I call any really wet areas in my pasture. I don't have to worry about the animals getting marred down in a bog and dying, and I've had that before in South Carolina. I don't have to worry about drainage here at all where I'm at. And remember, it rains 6 to 8 feet of rain here throughout a whole winter time. So we get a whole lot of rain that you guys don't see in most of the US, with some exceptions. Because of that, I needed to consider, where's all that water going? Belle! We're about 60 feet above our creek, and you can't see from here, but if you look over there, you can see that there's a hill that drops off and goes down to the creek. And basically my whole property sits on a crown, not a real big crown, but enough that it just lets all the water drain away from our house. When we have a really big storm here, we will get some puddling, which is good, but the soil in Chile is, in my area of Chile specifically, is so porous that water is just instantly absorbed into the soil and into the water table. By instantly, I mean it'll rain swimming pools, and less than an hour later there'll be no puddles here, with a few exceptions, okay? And we're talking a lot of water, so much water here that this whole area will be covered with about a 1/4 inch of slop rain water. Yeah. So you got to think about, where am I putting my house? Where's all that water going from my house? I do save some water in some barrels and buckets to water my animals, just because I'm too lazy to go put a garden hose out there for them with a water. I hook a tank up and it gets the rainwater. The rainwater gives it to the animals. And that's the best way to do it. If I was in an extremely dry area, or somewhere that I had concern about pure or clean water, or concern about my well drying up, then I would be a lot more enamored with the thought of putting in water storage and water bins and whatever. But for me, I can fill a 1,000-liter tank of water over there off the rain gutter in 2 days. It's really, and it's overflowing. I have to actually pipe in an overflow to take the water to where it can go to a ditch to go downhill and down to the creek. So there we're talking again about the constraint of the environment and the soil here. And the soil here is very porous, okay? So I wanted to define my property in as best I could. And there's things you can do to mitigate or fight against the problems that are presented to you with each property. I could have burned the cabana down, yeah. I could come here and cut all these trees down, and then I could have more pasture for my cattle, yeah. I could have left the driveway where it is and just bolstered it up, but then I would have destroyed the use of that front pasture, because it just kind of swaths across it where it was. And that's kind of useless. I really need that grass. So the question is how much expense are you willing to pay to fix a problem that the property that you're considering buying will present to you? Some things are not fixable beyond Elon Musk's level of income and savings. All right. So is it worth you really buying that property? And I guess the thought that I'm trying to convey to you is that you need to think about what you're buying, and is it worth what you're paying for it, for what you're going to be using. I'm discovering that a lot of the people that are moving here, some of them have farm experience. Yeah, they know how to take care of an animal, and they've done some gardening, but they've not done homesteading, where you're considering, okay, is that going to feed me if I do that work there, or am I better off doing work over here and getting more productive and more food? An example here is we don't grow potatoes, but this is like the potato capital of South America. And the reason we don't is because maybe it's a bad example right now, but potatoes are so cheap that it doesn't make sense for me to really grow potatoes, okay, or beets for that matter. Because there's so much manual labor involved with that, and that's money, that's time, that's effort. This is my job. But there are things that are so easy to plant and so easy to harvest, it doesn't make sense not to plant them. And that would be lettuce, acelga, carrots, your root veggies, okay, your collard greens, things like that. Just doesn't really make sense for us not to plant those things. So that's a constraint of my environment, where my property is located. It's a constraint of the temperature here and the differentials and the water, and how hot and how cool is it here in Chile throughout the year. You have different growing seasons, okay? I caution you, don't go just look online to see what zone it's called. I'm really not educated up on that as much as Lori is, since her degree is in ornament or is in horticulture, ornamental horticulture. Lori's a Clemson graduate. And the reason I caution you is because you could be in a valley, or you could be on a ridge or somewhere, and that acts like a dam to stop the weather pattern, and it'll just dump all its rain right there, or you'll be really dry there. If you go 60 miles, 50 miles, 60 miles to the east of me right now, you're going to be in the Argentina, and it's going to be a semi-arid desert there, and we get too much water. So you need to look at those considerations, okay? If you're willing to pay a lot of money to be able to drill really deep bore wells and pay to have a pump running to irrigate that well all the time, then that's not an unsurmountable problem. It's a cost to benefit ratio. And then some people have so much money that, yeah, okay, well, I'll reroute that creek or that whatever, you know. There are some ways to fix some things here. For instance, if you have, we were talking about the wet soil, really a wet area, like a swampy area, there's telltales there, like wet grass. Wet grass, I don't have a picture of it here. Maybe I can find one and stamp it. What is wet grass, you ask? Well, I'm happy you asked that. Wet grass is this grass right here. You can see it stands out all to its own. What is that indicating? Well, the nickname for it's wet grass, red nickname for it. And this stuff is very tough. The animals will not eat it, and it uses a lot of nutrients in your soil. But more importantly, is that wet grass only grows where there's too much water. Too much water is in, if you drove a tractor here, it would or could sink up to its axles. You can see here where somebody's been driving and it was trying to do a little bit of that action there. Because all this grass here, there, over there, there, that's an indication there's a lot of groundwater here. Groundwater can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. All that over there in that field there is wet grass. All this dark green grass is wet grass. What do you do to get rid of it? Well, you can take a subsoiler and go, which is a spike, and go down in the soil and drag and give it a channel to go out. And the Germans actually, when they came to Chile, they would take a piece of property like this and they would take a subsoiler, and out of the back of that subsoiler would come a wick, basically hemp rope, and the water would follow that hemp rope out to the channel and then drain. But wet grass delineates or demarks where there's too much water. And what you can do is a couple things. If there's a spring there, then you can give that spring, natural spring, you can give that, you can create a path for that natural spring to, for its water to run off to, instead of just making a big wet area. You need to look at the basic things of a property and assess what's going to work for you. Can you use this just to build a house on and have a lot with your house there and run your lawnmower all the time? Yeah, or can you put a homestead on this property and make productive use of it to feed your family for the rest of your natural born days very cheaply? So those things would be water, sunlight, yeah. And the weather involved with that sunlight is you get a lot of snow. You get too much rain, you get enough rain. In the north of Chile, they're doing water restrictions this moment in Santiago. They're cutting people off for days up there. I don't want to live like that. So, but we're talking about a homestead. So water, the temperature of the sun involved with your property, okay, and then your soil consistencies. What is your soil like? Is it clay? Is it sand? Is it rich, black, 6 foot deep, loamy soil like I have? Man, I could sell my soil in the U.S. It's so rich and so beautiful. It's I don't like digging ditches, but it's fun digging a ditch here because it's not that hard. In the U.S., it was ever a pain to dig in South Carolina into that hard clay. So sunlight, and so that sunlight, when I say sunlight, I mean your weather, your hot, cool, how much sunlight do you get, how much rain do you get. Water, do you have easily available water for your animals and your family and for your crops? Yeah, and then soil, what's your soil consistencies? Okay, and then you can go into other areas that are not as detrimental. Do you have, what's the view like, okay? Is it a nice view? Then we're starting to get into things I like, not things I absolutely need. Do you have enough pasture land for only 2 cows? Because those are a 2-year investment there to go into the freezer. Pigs are much shorter. Or do you have enough room for 5 or 6 cows, which is it's probably where you want to go. 8 to 10 cows, beef cows is the best way to get there. So all that stuff I'm going to help you with if you come here and work with me. But if you don't work with me, that's fine. I don't want to work that hard. I don't. You guys work that hard, and I don't know why. Life's too short to just be worried about work all the time. But I do like helping people, and if you come here and you want me to help you, I'm going to look at your potential properties with a skeptical eye. Things that you're not thinking about as a city slicker, or maybe things you're not thinking about as just a homegrown farmer. And homesteading in Chile is a bit different than it is in the United States or Canada or Europe or Australia. And homesteading here, even more defined, is a lot different than homesteading in the north of Chile or the south of Chile. We don't have snow, and we don't like they have in the south, and the really high winds all the time, and we don't have the unusually desert-like high, dry, dusty conditions that they have in the north of the country. The only reason you're seeing any dirt here around me now is because the cow's been stomping on it. It's drying out. But if you're in the north of Chile, that's desert dust all the time. They don't have a grass in their yard. They have a rock yard. I don't like that. That's my Goldilocks zone. What's good for me is not good for you always. So you got to choose and weigh your options and see if your budget will help you or allow you to be able to do what you want to do with the properties that you're looking at. All right. So when you look at property here in Chile, you need to remember that Chileans don't know what homesteading is. They're just calling you a dirt farmer out there, a peasant. Campesino means peasant. And I'm a campesino for all intents and purposes, a peasant. Because I just go out and I farm my own property and I survive. And I do pretty well. I didn't get fat like this for no reason, okay? So I think I'm the best advertisement for living a rich lifestyle as there ever could be. And I don't mean rich in dollars. I mean rich in the health of the quality of the soil that I have, that has no chemicals in it. That's I don't use chemicals, and that my food and my livestock are all equally chemically free and hormone free. I can choose those things. You guys are eating bugs, okay? So if you want that, then it's like anything. You have to fight for what you want. Somebody's just not going to give it to you, okay? And things cost things. I don't work for free. No, I don't. I know a lot of people think I would, but I don't. I just don't. I've got things to do here. I mean, I'm getting yelled at by the boss there all the time about fixing fence posts or digging in the garden or whatever. There's always something to do here that will give me a lot more pleasure doing it, and a lot more joy and a lot more food than going out and making a buck or making a peso. I don't really care about pesos because I don't need pesos in my pocket. I need food in my basement and in my pantry. Yep, and on the kitchen table. So anyways, that's a really long video, but it's important. And the reason I brought it up is because I got so many of you guys moving here right now. And in all honesty, I can't work with everybody that's coming. I can't. There's only one of me. I do have a team. Joshua's on there. Marcelo's on there. Darren Kaiser's on there in the north. And between the four of us, we almost have the whole, from Santiago all the way down to Coyhaique or even Ushuaia covered, because we all have properties that we know about for sale in those areas. Okay, so that's the best I can offer you, but it's better than nothing. And when you get no help at all, then you end up getting a piece of property that doesn't suit your needs, that maybe you paid a lot or too much money for. So anyhow, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. There'll be people correcting me, and that's fine because I don't know everything. Just please put it in the comments. I respond to all my comments. Don't, unless they're profane, and then they pretty much immediately get thanked for the comment, and then the comment gets deleted. I really like when people are try my patience. It's a gift from God. It's the little pains in life that add up to the big joys. I mean, because if life wasn't about bad things, sometimes it would never be good things. But I don't put up with profanity in the comments. It's just me. Yeah, go to another channel if you don't like what I'm saying or doing. So put a comment in there and let me know what you say. Also, I am on Rumble now. I've been there for a while. Those videos are going over there, and Odyssey as well. If you want to subscribe to me, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. Remember, if you're asking me, okay, Jim, well, show me some real estate here in Chile for sale. I've shown a couple, and in the past I've done full exposés and videos on property here in Chile that have been for sale, so you guys could get an idea what the market was about. And the market's always changing from instant to instant. But at this point, I no longer put anything other there than a couple of hors d'oeuvres, let's say. My Chile Expat Family Chat group, they get full-on videos, sometimes up to as many as 5 different properties a week that are full exposés, videos of those, and showing everything and about the property, so you're well informed. And many of those people are buying those properties that we're putting up there. I don't do that for YouTube or Odyssey or Rumble because, well, I don't get paid to do that. If you want to join the group, you can contact me in Telegram, and at Jim Dorchak, D-O-R-C-H-A-K, is my Telegram contact, and I'll talk with you, and then we'll put you in the group if you'd like. There is a $100 fee to join my Telegram group, and periodic on your honor donations. Ciao from Chile Expat Family.